Hello, everybody. My name is Zerdugu, and here are my final words on Resident Evil. Now, you may have noticed that I'm kind of like, I don't really want to do this. Is because something tells me somewhere out there is a group of Resident Evil 2 fans out there arming their pitchforks and torches for moi. And why? Because what I have to say for Resident Evil isn't necessarily a good thing. Alright, so let's get started. So, when I uh, did the live stream to finish off Resident Evil 2, I actually was kind of critical, and I kind of missed some points that some Resident Evil 2 fans were making. I actually did some time to think about it. What they told me is because of all the fixed camera angles that makes the game scarier. Well, I did some thinking about it and I realized that's a cheap jump scare. I mean, the kind of cheap that where you go into a fight, it's expecting a fair fight, and your opponent basically walks up to you and punches you on the balls. Yeah, that kind of cheap, which makes the game kind of pointless in that respect. Now that I think about it, the way that the whole camera angles are, it's kind of as if the camera itself is a director trying to get the perfect shot basically. And bros, movies and video games are two very different things, so fuck off. And actually, yeah, now that we're on that subject, Resident Evil, like many of the games of its time, well, maybe not many, but it's a story-based game, and the only reason I think a video game should ever be a story-based game is if it's something like Dungeons and Dragons. But that's not what Resident Evil is. My biggest complaint I had during on the credits is something that kind of still stands with me, is that the game is trying to make it where it's like a survival horror. That's understandable what they're trying to go for, except the problem is they kind of failed in that regard. Why? A, the controls are a bit awkward, which is something that everybody complains about. And B, you're in an enclosed area, forcing you to have no choice but to kill the enemies that are in your way, making the whole save your ammo concept completely fucking pointless. I mean, what were they thinking with this piece of shit? But I will say one good thing about Resident Evil 2. It's still considered a classic to me and to some other people. But I just can't recommend it for the newer generation of gamers. Why? Because something tells me if someone who has never played a single Resident Evil in their life played this game, and they'll be like, "This is shit. Why would anybody play this nowadays?" And to that response, I can't disagree with them. I can't, because it's it fails in a lot of different regards. It's the whole concept of trying to be a scary game and also trying to be a save your ammo type kind of game where it's all about survival horror. But it just fails in that regard, and it feels like no other game that was kind of made previous for that, which is basically go around and kill everything kind of deal. The only problem is that if you try to do it with this game, you run out of ammo quickly, and therefore becomes a game not worth your time. But yet again, another nice thing I need to say, I would have to say it's not the worst games out there, and definitely not the worst Resident Evil game out there. The worst of Resident Evil game, for that honor, goes to, drum roll please, Resident Evil Outbreak. Why? Because I got stuck on the third fucking level. I mean, seriously, when you have to go on the internet and then look up a strategy guide, that ruins the entire experience. Something tells me that what you're supposed to do on the hive level is something so complicated and so out of place that anybody would miss it, because I spent literally 2 hours just trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to do and still couldn't figure it out. I remember when I was a teenager, I somehow figured out how to get past that level after playing, literally wasting hours of my life figuring it out, and then get stuck in the very next level, going to show that the puzzles weren't done right. That's another thing that I have. One thing I have a problem with certain puzzle horror games is when the puzzles are too complicated. You don't play a game to then sit down with a bunch of old folks to put puzzles together. Why would you do that? I But at least in Resident Evil 2, the puzzles are easy to figure out. I mean, I figured them out pretty quickly. I actually find it very interesting that when I was playing it on the Nintendo 64 version, how far I actually got. I didn't know I was almost at the end. I didn't know that until I recently done the live stream. Because right after I killed the final boss, I was like, "Yeah, guys, this is blind territory." And what do you know? It's almost at the end. It's basically the end of the game. So it is interesting that I actually made it that far. So yeah. So you heard me rant about how Resident Evil during the post credits of my live stream, and you hear me rant about it again. This will be the last time I'll be talking about Resident Evil on my YouTube channel. Actually, no, there is one other Resident Evil game I would like to play later. Edie Dum 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 Dum. Who the fuck is that one mid flip? That's my fault for being stupid. But enough ranting about Resident Evil. I will see you guys when I'm playing some motherfucking Doom. So please like and subscribe. And this is a Zerduku signing out.